Let me make sure we're on. Can you talk? 1, 2, 1, 2.
1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us now? Okay. All right. Hey, this is the good thing. We've been having so many technical problems. We are starting to enjoy the technical problems. Yep. No, anyway, I'm kidding, but we're gonna start over. So Alina is here. She's from Ukraine, and I was asking her. She lives in the States now. She's been here for 4 years, and I was asking her, how do you feel that you have been, you've left your country and have moved out to the United States? How do you feel? How do your parents feel?
So moving to New York from Moscow was very easy because I kind of feel that vibes in New York are similar to the energy and to the speed of Moscow and to aggressiveness. So it's kind of really not a big change, but culture and the language.
Camera is there.
Okay, sure. Sorry.
Thanks, Maria, for the feedback, by the way. Thank you.
So, but the culture and the language, yeah, that was a problem. But you know, I would say that it would surprise a lot of Americans. But I would say that our outlook to the world of Russians and Americans is kind of similar also.
Russians and Americans have the same outlook. It doesn't surprise me. You know, two superpowers conflicting powers for about 50 years, if not more, you know, up until the fall of the Berlin Wall. You know, sort of, it doesn't surprise me. At the same time, of course, very different cultures. But anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
But I talked with a lot of Americans, and Russia and Russian people and culture, for them, it's like a black spot. They know nothing about it. I mean, because Russians are not used to articulate in a very good way. Yeah, not very articulate about their feelings and emotions. So that's why sometimes for Americans it feels like there is a huge wall between them and Russians. But for Russians it's much easier because Americans are much more outgoing and social and easy to start a conversation with.
So you're saying that Russians are sort of not showing their feelings?
Yeah, and it's connected with our Soviet history because you had to be like everyone else. If someone would stand out, this person would be sent to Siberia, which was kind of jail. I mean, Siberia.
What were you doing in Siberia? What was your family doing in Siberia? So hold on, let me recap because Alina is Ukrainian, and of course we're going to talk about Ukraine today. But she is from Eastern Ukraine, and she grew up in Siberia and Moscow, correct?
Yep.
But all your family is in Ukraine.
Yeah, except my parents.
But do you call yourself Ukrainian or Russian?
Before this conflict, I didn't separate it. It was the same thing for me. It was the same culture, the same blood.
What did you call it?
I don't know, just Slavic or Russian.
Russian.
Yeah.
Now you have to say Ukrainian.
No, I have to separate. Yeah, I'm ethnically Ukrainian, but I'm a Russian citizen. So
okay.
Now I have to.
Okay.
Specify.
Wow.
Because of everything that happened recently in a couple of years.
Yeah, I understand that a lot of things change when the political situation changes in every country. One is called to sort of be something, or one has to have almost an identity that has to be outspoken, whereas before it was, we were all kind of the same brothers. All of a sudden it's almost like they force us to get into divisions and boxes, and that's very sad, I think, because the people really don't have much to separate. They want to be living in peace, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now you have to say I am this citizen, but of that ethnicity. I'm from Eastern Ukraine. Even I'm asking you, are you from Eastern Ukraine or Western Ukraine? Because now with the conflict,
it's important now.
I have to, I want to know how are you affected by your own country's politics, or in your case, in the case of your country, it's literally civil war. So let's get back to Siberia.
Yeah.
Were your parents working there? And
yeah, at that time it used to be it used to be a good idea to move to Siberia because the salaries were twice higher than average because of the harsh weather conditions. That's why my parents moved from Ukraine to Siberia to start their own company, a couple of companies.
Nice. So they were entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Nice.
And because of the lack of competition there, it's quite easy, and a lot of land, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of resources also.
Yeah.
But because of the weather, no one really wants to go there. And even Chinese, I was born right across the river from China. It was 20 minutes by boat, and when we wanted to go to a restaurant, we went to China and then came back. And the same evening. Even Chinese don't live there as much because it's too cold.
Too cold. Do you speak any Chinese?
I used to learn it, but no. I was studying for a while, but no, I don't use it, so I wish.
Wow, so many cultures so many experiences as a child. So did you like? So it was definitely a cold childhood and harsh conditions. How was it though? What was the life like as a child? Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister, and I realized how weather. There is an amazing book of Jared Diamond called "Steel, Germs, and Guns."
Guns?
Yeah, sorry, I was reading it in Russian, so it took me a while to translate. And he explains how much weather influence our psychology and it shapes our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so Siberia is a place where it's cold for 10 months and you have to stay indoors. You don't go like in Cuba or South America. You don't hang out near the house. You stay indoors and you read or you watch TV, but there is just 4 channels. Well, it used to be just 4 channels.
I see.
And basically all you do is just read, and that's
school?
it.
Snow, there's always like snow and...
Yeah, and in the winter you have to always wear something in your face because it hurts to breathe. It's painful.
And the summer is sort of not very warm, I believe, right? Just normal, kind of.
Well, there is a joke about Siberian summer. What did you do?
Look at turn towards the camera because I feel that people can't see you.
Okay. What did you do last summer? I slept that day. So it's just very, very brief, very short time of having a sun. And it's a lot of mosquitoes, so it's not very nice. It's not very nice.
Oh my god!
Time either.
Okay, so wow, I never knew details about life in Siberia, and I mean real life in Siberia, not the Soviet type of life in Siberia. I have a question regarding. In Greece, I have a joke for you that will sound. Whenever there was snow in Athens, we wouldn't have school. I know that would have made you laugh. Yeah, for us it was the opposite way. It was it's snowing, we can't go to school because cars, traffic, the cars wouldn't start. We would be stuck in the snow and all these things.
That's impossible to survive.
It's the opposite. So now tell me about your moving out to New York. And you moved out to study?
Yep.
You studied in Moscow and then moved to New York. You studied film producing and
management. And I started to work very early when I was 19 because I have a friend who gave me a job of a producer of TV show in Moscow. And I said, Dima, he said, Alina, you're going to be a producer. I said, Dima, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. And he said, no worries, I'll teach you everything. So he gave me a job and they taught me everything hands-on.
On TV,
Yeah,
on
TV.
Russian TV.
Federal channel, yeah, one of the biggest channels in Russia.
And you were producing TV
TV
shows?
show and TV series about countries.
Nice.
And then the overall atmosphere in some big corporations in Russia is still kind of Soviet. So you have to stay in a block. You have to follow the rules.
The mentality is still there.
Mentality is there. You cannot even, you cannot do anything with it because it's too tough. So I decided to keep studying and keep improving my skills. And where else would I implement everything I knew and go to the next level? Of course, in New York. Of course, in the States. Well, New York or Los Angeles. So I moved to New York. I studied at the New York Film Academy, but as I had a lot of experience before, I realized that
you don't need to be in school.
I just waste my time and energy and resources. I'd rather work. And I got a good job proposal to represent a TV company in New York.
Nice.
To be a country manager of one Russian TV company. So I moved back to get a visa, and then I moved back to the States. And
now you're in LA. You can pick the place where you live.
Yep.
Since you're a regional manager.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome is that? How awesome is that? Wow.
Thank you.
So, and you're so young too. So maybe you can have your own channel in the future. Who knows? Maybe you can have your own channel at Underground Network.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you so much. It's nice to hear from you.
Yeah, and you can go live and speak Russian too.
I would love to. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, why not? We are a multicultural platform, and we encourage people to speak out. Mm-hmm. So let's speak out about Ukraine. So what do you know? I know you are not specifically political. At least, you're a normal human being, not like me, who's completely abnormal every day, reading about what's going on in the world, trying to find out economics, trying to find out what's going on with the banking system worldwide, what's going on in Greece, what's going on in Ukraine, everywhere. That's not normal. But you're a normal person. But I wanna hear your view on Ukraine. Let me say what I know, and tell me if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, about 3 years ago, there was an election in Ukraine, and somebody was elected. Of course, not somebody very clean. Everyone's corrupt. Everyone in every country is corrupt. So there was I don't think there was any difference in Ukraine. But anyway, that guy, I guess, but at some point, Ukraine was doing badly economically, and at some point he refused to take a loan from the Western world, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and he was ready to get a loan from Russia. At that point, the West was not happy with him, so there was a revolution. And we were not sure how much of a real revolution that was. In the beginning, people really believed that was a revolution because they were fed up with the corruption, so they joined the movement. But yet, it turned into something slightly different. This president or prime minister, I don't remember, was misplaced, and somebody else was put in place. And the person who was put in place is not so much about the person, but about the other people in government. And I'm hearing that there are extreme neo-Nazi elements, and basically people who are started creating this conflict in Ukraine, which we know that Western Ukraine, a smaller part of Ukraine, and Kiev are more are I think ethnically kind of different from Eastern Ukraine, where you are majorly of Russian origins. You speak Russian in Eastern, right? Correct? Am I correct?
Yes.
And so what happened is a civil war. But the worst part of it is that cities are being bombarded, civilians are being killed. I can't really watch them, but children are pictures of bodies of children are being shown in the social media. It is so sad. And of course, what the narrative is that, it is Russian troops who have gone into Eastern Ukraine and are helping, this war. And there are voices which say, namely a French journalist says, he has been in Eastern Ukraine, he wrote a big article about it, and he said, I did not see one Russian troop. I just saw people, Ukrainians try to sort of, defend their land from the forces, the Western forces, Western Ukrainian forces and other forces, God knows who they are, but I have not seen any presence, not even official or unofficial, have not seen any Russian tanks, I have not seen. So what is the truth? And am I correct? I mean, this is my idea of the situation.
Well, everything you said sounds pretty correct, but who really knows what's going on there? Even I talked with a lot of Ukrainians, I talked with a lot of Russians and about the situation, and they all have different perspective. So when everything just started with Crimea, Putin officially said that there is no Russian troops in there, but later on it was proven by pictures and by some other evidence that there were some Russian troops
in Crimea.
Yeah, but other than that, it's very difficult to say because you cannot. Well, it's the same race, it's the same color, it's the same features of the faces. So you cannot tell who they are, and even Ukrainians, they don't know.
Oh, you don't know if they're Russians or...
Yeah, you cannot distinguish them.
But the language, can't you tell from the language?
A lot of Ukrainians speak Russian, and it's very difficult. No one knows who is there, and no one knows who was there. No one even understands how did that happen, and what's the
end goal?
What's the end goal, and what's the purpose? People are divided to several separate groups and even families. People stop talking to each other because of the politics. In one family, Ukrainians stop talking to Russians because they think that Russia is being stupid aggressor who invades Ukraine for no reason or with some reason to take over some parts. And the Russians think that it's kind of in the media, and people say that it's not safe for Russians to go to Ukraine now because Ukrainians kill them. But Ukrainians say there is nothing like this happening. And I remember when the conflict with Georgia just happened in 2008, I came to Georgia this year with my Georgian friends to see, is it really that bad? Do they really hate Russians, as our Russian media used to say? And I had people coming to me in the streets and saying, please tell your friends and your family that we love you. Don't listen to the media. It's all propaganda. Russians and Georgians are brother and sister. It's Mikhail Saakashvili, a former president at that time, and Putin's it's their thing going on. It's not about the people.
Yeah.
So the same situation.
It's never about the people, actually.
Exactly.
It's never about the people.
The same situation now happening in Ukraine. The media desperately tries to separate people, but I hope it's not going to happen. Before all this conflict started, the very last thing I would think about is that Russia and Ukraine would have any sort of conflict, because it's not like brother and sister, it's like twins. It's the same everything. I mean, for me, it used to be like this, and for Ukrainians also, but with everything that just happened, Ukrainians became more patriotic. They became to separate their culture from Russian culture, and it's actually a positive effect, probably, if there is any, that Ukrainians started to be aware of their own roots, language, and everything that shapes the culture.
So you're talking about Eastern Ukrainians. What is the origin of Western Ukrainians, I wonder, if there is a difference? Because to my understanding, ethnically, it looks like there is a difference between a percentage of Western Ukrainians and Eastern Ukrainians, or is it just a myth? Is everybody, let's say, ethnically, racially the same?
Yes.
Or culturally? Everyone's the same?
Yeah, pretty much the same. You
same.
cannot find two equal people, so there is small differences, but it's not a big
Is it a
separation
religious
between them.
issue? Maybe are there?
No.
Everyone is what in the country?
The eastern part is more pro-Russian because it's a neighbor. They're neighbors to Russia, and all the businesses they have and relatives, it's connected. Everything's connected with Russia, so they're more pro-Russian. And the western part is more pro-European, and that's the only difference.
Okay. So religiously, there's no difference.
No,
I thought there was. I thought there were sort of more Catholic, Christian Catholics in the West and Orthodox Russian.
Well, probably there is some, but it's not an issue.
It's not an issue.
It's not a big
Okay.
deal.
See, we don't know anything. Like all we know is what we read, and what we read comes from, especially what I read is I'm trying to read various sources, and then once you've read everything, you kind of say, okay, what is you kind of rely on your judgment. But for example, I didn't know that you gave a few insiders information that I had no idea about, that the people speaking Russian, nobody knows who they are. If they're Russian, they could be Russian. If they're Ukrainian, nobody knows. You know, these are things, you know, it never reaches out to the people, and it's very unfortunate. So how is your family there? Are they safe? Is life going on as usual? Or is it the pictures that I'm seeing in the social media, which are atrocious and so sad and tragic?
Well, God bless, my family is safe, and my parents, they live in Russia, and they have a refugee family from Ukraine now. They gave them a job and a place to live. And I know a lot of companies and a lot of people, they support refugees from Ukraine.
They are trying to escape the war, and they...
Yep. But most of the population that had to move out of the country, they moved not to Russia, because Russia is supposed to be an enemy now. They moved to Poland, to the States, to England, but mostly to Eastern Europe.
I see.
And Poland, as far as I know,
So Russia is an enemy now, even for Eastern Ukrainians?
It depends. It depends who are you talking with, because there is no.
Again, there's a split.
Yeah, there's a split, and you cannot divide people just by regions. There's
divisions within.
Yes.
My goodness!
And they're all separated. So
it is so sad. It's so traumatic too for kids growing up, I'm sure. I'm going to tell you a really brief story, and it's regarding Ukrainians. We have a lot of by the way, Maria asked a question that I was going to ask you next. What do you think about Putin? I was going to ask that question, Maria, but I have this story in Greece. We still have a lot of Ukrainian people in Greece, and I know that there were two women who were working for two families in Greece, and one was from the east, the other from the west, and they were friends. They are friends still. Of course, they are friends. They're in a foreign country, they're in Greece, and they've been friends for years. And when the civil war started, one of the son was visiting Greece, was visiting his mother, and then the war started, and he didn't know what to do, because they were enlisting the young boys to go to war.
And not only young.
Yeah, young and old. I think he was probably in his mid-20s, and I don't know what happened, but I know that he canceled his trip back to Ukraine, because he said, I don't want to go and fight against my brothers. So I mean, that's a tragedy, and it's a tough situation that people are forced to go through. But what do you think about Putin? Asks Maria, and that's a great question.
Well, I can tell that you are right about it happens a lot that if only someone has choice to leave the country, they leave. I cannot generalize, of course, but a lot of people left, especially because of a lot of business economy situation now is
It's done.
Is done. Yeah, there is no hope to recover.
I was just seeing. There was a picture of Donbass, of the. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, perfect. Donbass.
Donbass, the airport, which was finished, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012 or 11, and then the picture last year, about a year or two later, an amazing brand new airport that was completely destroyed by bombings, and they had put the two pictures one next to each other, and those are, of course, millions of money, millions of whatever the currency is, probably millions of dollars, spent for such a new airport in the city of Donbass, and now it was just in shambles. It was, one cannot believe what is going on in the world and why. The big question is why.
Yeah, you know? I wish we would know why.
Well, I think that
going to.
I mean, there's a general explanation for the why, without going into specifics. Is the wars are a money-making business.
Yep, that's what they say.
Right. So once you have this financial system that it's hard to make money, to make more money, you have to go into this speculation thing, and then at some point, you know, what do you do with your money to make it have value? You have to keep on gambling or make wars. You know, that's another way of making money. So what do you think about Putin?
Yeah, I was trying to escape this question, but you
I
didn't
mean,
give me a chance.
You know, you don't have to be.
Well, I'm trying to stay out of the politics as much as I can, because I really appreciate my inner peace and my lifestyle and my outlook.
And you are so right, because I've lost my inner peace and I lost my lifestyle because of politics.
So, well, Putin is controversial. That's all I can say now. And he's one of the strongest politics now in the world.
Okay, let me say what I think about Putin. You don't have to take any side. I have the impression that there's at least two Putins. There's the Putin toward the outside and the Putin inside the country. It looks like inside the country, he's the worst dictator ever. He does crazy things and oppresses its own people, you know, even does worse things if he wants to get rid of them. But the Putin from the outside, not that he's an angel or anything, but it looks like at least he is trying to defend the borders of his country. That is my impression. And that doesn't mean that no politician is a good man. There is no way. There's no way. On the contrary. But I think that, I mean, there's definitely an inside, you know, the way he is in the country is probably not a very democratic man. He's doing things that are oppressive and probably against some rights in his own country. But on the outside, at least, and this is only comparative. Because, you know, in Europe we have now more technocrats ruling. So there's very few politicians left in the world. And that doesn't mean that they're good people. Quite the contrary. But at least they react as a leader, and it looks like Putin is still behaving as a leader, at least toward the outside of his country. So that is my impression. I may be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I agree with your point, but there are more details. And
I'm sure. I know nothing.
It's such a long topic to talk about.
Okay, let me simplify. When you lived in Russia, were you feeling you were living in a democracy?
Well, I left when I was 21. So I wasn't really paying attention to what's going on. I was I was working hard and I was getting good money, so it was enough for me to know. And I wouldn't say that everybody is scared of Putin, and it's such a harsh reality. Well, there is a hope and there is opportunities. So
There are opportunities in Russia?
yep,
Business opportunities?
yes, of course. It's a good market now. Not now because of the crisis, because of current situation, and a lot of businesses stopped. They just broke because of the crisis. For example, in just a year, in 6 months since October till March, over 900 restaurants closed down in Moscow because of the
900 restaurants. How many restaurants does Moscow have?
I would say that Moscow is one of the capitals for foodie people. It's a very Russians like to live
Good
the
food.
life. Yeah.
Drink vodka and eat good food?
Yeah, food must be amazing in Moscow. Otherwise, you cannot survive as a business. You have to be it's very competitive. So everybody's trying hard to be the best.
Oh, wow.
And it's working out. I love restaurants in Moscow.
So what is the plan for the future? Oh, Maria says, I was really shocked about what happened with the Pussy Riot, I must say, now that I remember. I was going to talk about Pussy Riot, actually. That is pretty chilling. That's a pretty extreme reaction there for I guess, a leader of a country to act like this toward young women.
Well, I wouldn't. There are two different attitudes from people. Of people to the situation. Russia, some of them, they support Putin because they think that what they did in a church, they did it in a church, was very inappropriate, and.
But I guess that's why they did it. They wanted to be provocative.
So a lot of people, I don't know in percentage, most of the people are not, but they support Putin in his behavior and his action towards them because of
But that's not the
religious-
majority, right?
Probably no.
Yeah. Okay. I see. I mean, the thing is, when you want to, in order to really speak out, the truth is, I'm not taking any stance. I mean, I was horrified at what happened to those young women once they were convicted and in jail. It's horrible to read what they did to them, those tactics. But that they say that you can judge a regime from the way it's treating its prisoners, and so these are the most shocking and horrible things one of the most I've ever read. I mean, not the most, of course, but the truth is to be able to attract attention in order to speak for your cause. And I'm not supporting what they did. I don't take any stance, but you see it everywhere. To be able to attract attention, sometimes people do extreme things. Otherwise, nobody would be talking about it. On the other hand, I know that religious people who do hold are looking toward religion as their lifestyle, and of course it would offend them, but anyway, okay, I don't want to force you to talk more about Putin. It's even though this is just a very, very relaxing conversation, and no one is watching us, and certainly not Putin.
I wouldn't mind.
You wouldn't mind?
I'm sure he's too busy.
He's too busy to watch us, but yeah, don't tempt me to ask you what you would say to him if you were to talk to him. Anyway, so in terms of, let's talk about America. So what do you think about America? How do you feel here? Are you happy? Did you ever, as growing up, have this idea of an American dream? Is that why you came? Like, why America?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you for not asking me anything about politics. And we have one more question here.
One more question. And yes, and what about gay rights in Russia? Sochi must be really bad like Greece. Oh, of course, you can answer that question, but I believe in any sort of predominantly religious society, I think those issues are extremely extreme at this point. She is watching. What do you mean you are watching?
I don't know.
Oh, she's watching what's going on. She probably is watching what's going on in Russia.
Okay.
You know what? I'm talking to Maria, but I think it's sometimes when you are asked those questions, you can explain why things are. It doesn't mean you defend them. I mean, the other day they asked me about Greece. So Greece, and the gay rights, and I'm like, you asked me, of course I'm pro gay rights, everything. I think everybody should be free to lead the life they want, to do what they want. But on the other hand, you cannot demand of a society that has been conservative for years and is still very conservative. You cannot demand that things can change overnight. I mean, this is just explaining it. It doesn't mean you defend it. It's just explaining it. It's some people are, for example, and a friend was telling me about the Pope of Rome. Yes, but he didn't do that. I'm like, yes, but he is representing the church, the Roman Catholic Church. You can only demand so much from some people and from some societies. She says, I take back my question. No, you don't have to take it back.
I don't answer.
Yeah, answer the question, but this was my take on your question, my answer to your question.
So when everything just started with Sochi, I was already living in LA, and I was watching the news in the States, and I was watching the news in Russian on my Facebook, and I was reading a lot of stuff. So, well, first I would say that gay rights and gay people are not that suppressed in Russia as it seems from here. I know a lot of gay people, couples who live their life, who, well, they don't show it off very much, but they
live together.
They live together. Oh. Yeah, they have. Everybody knows that they are gay people,
and they can work and.
Of course, sure. But as you said, Russia used to be, and still is at some degree, a very conservative society and very religious. Mm-hmm. So no one would attack them in the streets of Moscow. But still, in some circles, it's
taboo.
Yeah, it's taboo to talk about it or to be who they are, to behave like they want to behave. Mm-hmm. It usually happens behind the closed doors and in a group of friends. But so the main accent of U.S. media while the Olympic Games were happening was on gay rights. And because of Putin signing the law, this law was presented as against gay rights in Russia, but really it was prohibiting propaganda on a TV or for children. So
what kind of propaganda could have been on a TV?
Something that would promote being a gay.
Oh.
Like, I don't know, saying it could be a lot of
like if I say that I'm pro gay rights, that's propaganda. I'm asking the question because I don't know.
If I say that I'm for example a lesbian and I want my kids to be lesbian, that would be a propaganda. Or if I would go on TV and talk about that as a lesbian, for example, I am more progressive than you are. Any sort of things that would promote gay.
Well, for me, anybody who says I am this and I'm better than you, anybody is not a very fair person to start with.
Sure. I'm just telling you the basics.
You're just telling me how he sort of presented it.
Yeah, in my opinion.
So around Sochi, you're saying that this was picked up,
topic of the US media to put some to help their propaganda, that happening from the States against Russia.
I see.
And they didn't really
You're getting out of the frame. I'm pulling you back in. Yeah. And they did not what?
They didn't even pay a lot of or enough attention to what was really going on in Sochi Olympic Games, how everything was excellently done, built, beautifully, beautiful design, and very great organization. So
yeah, people they shifted the people's attention something else.
To gay rights.
Well, it's something that the media always do, and they can do it so effectively because they have the power. You know, it's corporate media, so they have the power to do that. But getting back to the American dream.
Okay, yeah, that's a way more nicer thing to talk about. So I never had a dream of living in the States. I never wanted to settle down in one place. I always considered myself a global Russian and citizen of the world. And living in New York, I realized that probably America is the only country which would give me this inner feeling of being free and having my options opened to whatever I want to choose, which way I want to go, which path I want to follow. Because I lived in different countries. I lived in China, I lived in Europe, and I would say that these cultures, they are too local for me. And now I live in LA because I think it's a epicenter of everything modern happens here, San Francisco and LA.
Interesting.
And
do you feel free?
Yeah, I feel free, and the feeling that California gives you, that I cannot compare it with any other place. I've been to almost 50
It's not
countries.
as beautiful as she says. Sorry, I'm kidding. Because I always complain about, I come from Greece, and so I can complain. But yes, I mean, California is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
So what is your goal in the future? Before, I wanted to ask what you know about Greece, if you know anything.
I love Greece.
Have you been to Greece?
Yeah, I've been to Santorini and a couple of more places. I love it, especially Santorini.
Santorini, okay. Yeah. And so do you know that it's in crisis? That
of course, I have friends there.
You have friends there?
Who has quite a good business. Quite a big business, and they tell me a lot about the current situation, that how difficult it is for them to survive.
Yeah.
And the same is happening now in Moscow, in Russia.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing, crisis. And it's always there are always two sides, negative and positive. And positive side of the crisis that's happening now in Russia and Ukraine is that people started to re-evaluate what they have and what is pre-given to them, and how is it and what is the smartest way to manage it, and how to utilize everything they have in a more efficient way.
Yes, it's true. Crises are a great chance, but I think as far as Greece is concerned, we know now we have to be done with it, because people are dying, and that's tragic. So it's good to be shaken a little bit and learn
it sometimes.
But when people start dying, it's time to And I was talking about Greece, but obviously it's the same about Ukraine. And in Ukraine, it's visible deaths, it's bombings, it's arms, it's tanks, it's armies. It's in Greece, it's economic. So you can't see the tanks, you can't see the soldiers, but yet people are still dying through other means. They lose health care. I was reading that the epidemics now spreading for the last 3 years is a big sign of how, when public health is being affected, it's people are dying, and that's as tragic. The moment you have people dying, it's Maria says, by the way, Maria, thank you so much for your questions.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, she always is she's, I think I should make a final award, a viewer award, and you would get it. Because she has been watching most of the lives. She has been watching them live, because a lot of people watch them afterwards. But she has been she has been tuning in and watching most lives.
Is she here in the studio?
No, she's not here. She's in Greece. She's in the island of Crete.
Wow,
but what's interesting
island.
is that she is such she tunes in so much that when she is not on, I know it. So anyway, but yeah, if there was an viewer award, you would be getting it at the end of the season. I will give you the viewer award for the live.
Thank you, Maria.
So yeah, but she says it's awesome to have an inside view, and yes, that's what I like too. Is sometimes we're stuck with what we read, but as soon as you talk to someone who knows, because of family, because of roots, it's a different story.
Yeah, and I happen to have 3 perspectives. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I really appreciate that you want to know the truth and that you want to know what's really going on and share it with people. So thank you for doing it.
I think it's my duty. I don't know. First of all, you're welcome, but I think it's really I feel a little bit of guilt, because throughout these months that I've been doing this, I talk about Greece 99% of the time. And sometimes I feel bad because I do read a lot about the rest of the world as well. And, it's like you talk about Greece and it's other people are being shot dead in Ukraine, in Africa, but the problem is, you have to sort of prioritize. And as a Greek right now, I feel that my country, somebody has to defend it. There are not many people defending it out there, so I do it for Greece. But no, thank you for the opportunity to talk about something else as well, because we Greeks are not the center of the world right now. We should not be. There's so many other tragedies as well going on. And by the way, what's interesting is that everything is part of the same problem.
Yep.
Everything is the result of the same problem. It's a worldwide issue with specific interests leading those wars, whether they're economic or physical wars. So at the end of the day, whether we talk about Greece or Ukraine or Russia or even Libya, it's part of the same issue. So thank you, Maria, for watching. Thank everybody else who is watching live, and thank you to the ones who watched before. But before you go, just tell me what your dream is.
My dream.
Your big dream.
Wow, it's my big dream is to fully release and at first acknowledge my potential and fully share it with the world. And I don't know.
Is it movies? Is it mainly movies, or is it television?
I think it's television, movies, and media. I love media, all kinds of channels.
If you love media, you'll soon be into politics, and be careful.
Hopefully not. No.
Okay, but if you were to pick one subject to shoot a movie on that you would write or someone else would write, what would be the subject?
Spirituality. Because we actually she texted something.
Maria says, less Russian tourists in Crete this summer. We had a sure thing, Russian tourists for 15 years, and now it's changed. Big impact and sad, really, because I like Russian people.
Thank you. Mostly because of the crisis. People don't have much money now, and because of having less money and being more patriotic, they go to Russian resorts, which is I'm glad. I'm happy about. Also.
Yeah, they want to help their economy.
But concerning your question, spirituality, I feel that I want to be a bridge, as I want to represent Russia in the States, and the same. I feel that spirituality and the world, our daily life, is far apart, and there is no connecting bridge or connecting something that would tell that you can implement everything you can get from here in your daily life to improve the quality of your life, to hack the system, to just upgrade everything you have. So that's my main focus.
Spirituality,
but very
to help humanity bridge
Yeah.
the gap. That is very political. Whatever you say, I can turn it political.
Yeah, that's your perspective. That's your
Yeah,
lens.
exactly. So, but you're right. I think, and I personally, I'm actually reading an economist who's very much into. He's an economist. He's a major economist. His name is David DeGraw. He's writing a lot about the banking system, the world banking system, and all these things. But he talks about. He tries to introduce spirituality in that field. How crazy, that sounds, yet there are people out there realizing the need for us to rise above and find a solution that is global, but not in the global in the bad sense, not global as they use it now for the economic system, but global in terms of humanly global. So that's a great message.
Yep.
We've been here almost an hour. Thank you for watching. I know Maria loves the lives with guests.
Thank you, Maria.
And I will, in my second season, which will start whenever it starts, I will be going after that. The only thing is, to be able to have guests, you have to have few people who invite them in, schedule things, you have to have editors and help. And as you know, Maria, I'm a one-woman show. I have been for 5 months, but I will try my best to get more guests here every time, and especially because everybody has incredibly interesting things that they can tell the world, and that's what I love about people. Everybody is so much wealth for the rest of us. So
that's why I love traveling.
That's why you love traveling,
because you can get in touch. You can touch the culture.
Yes.
You can read about it for ages, but as soon as you get there, you can
see it for yourself.
Yeah, you can be there and implement it. You can feel it.
All right, so thanks for watching. See you tomorrow at the same time. I shall be back probably alone. I'm sorry. Unless I find somebody by tomorrow. And thank you, Alina, for joining. And you will be back in our next season.
Thank you.
And talk about your project. And if you're interested, we could give you this platform and you can use it and you can make a live show.
I'll think about it. Actually, amazing idea. I was thinking about it before. But thank you. It was my pleasure. I really loved your questions, and thank you for rescuing me several times.
I have to do that. It's part of the ethical process to help your guest.
Yeah.
All right.
That was very professional. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Another friend joined from Crete, but we have to go. Hello to you. And Crete is watching us. By the way, you guys should be proud of your country. I watched a film documentary called A Family Affair. It's on the life and art of the Xiluri extended family. Of course, with Psarandonis and his son and the grandchildren. And what an amazing movie, A Family Affair. It was awarded at the Los Angeles Greek Film Festival, which ended yesterday. But just watching those images of Crete, I was just crying, and I'm not even from Crete, so imagine. So you guys are very lucky. Keep it up, and I will be there soon. So take care, goodbye, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.